Commander Tay stood in the center of the Federation Hall. His boots made small sounds against the smooth floor. Around him sat hundreds of alien delegates from across the galaxy. Some had 4 eyes, some had no eyes at all, some floated in special tanks filled with liquid. Others sat on chairs made for bodies that had no shape humans could understand. Tay was the first human to stand in this hall. Earth had joined the Galactic Federation only 6 months ago. Everything still felt new and strange. The air smelled different here. The lights were softer. The sounds were quieter. But Tay kept his face calm. He had trained his whole life to stay calm. "Welcome, human representative," said the lead chancellor. The chancellor was a tall being with silver skin and 3 long arms. His voice came out smooth and kind. "We are pleased to present Earth with the Standard Navigation Charter. This map shows all known space." A hologram appeared in front of Tay. It was beautiful. Millions of stars floated in the air before him. Trade routes glowed in soft blue. Allied worlds shone in gentle green. It was like looking at a living painting of the universe. But then Tay noticed something else. Scattered across the map were spots of deep red. They burned like drops of blood among the peaceful colors. There were exactly 78 of them. "What are those?" Tay asked. He pointed at the nearest red mark. The entire hall went silent. Several delegates shifted in their seats. A few made sounds of discomfort. The lead chancellor's 3 arms folded together slowly. "Those," the chancellor said in a lower voice, "are the Forbidden Worlds. Class X. Deathworlds. No vessel may approach them. No species may land on them. They are marked for permanent avoidance." Tay looked at the red dots again. "Why? What makes them so dangerous?" Another delegate spoke up. This one was a short creature covered in soft blue fur. Her name was Vel, and she represented one of the oldest species in the Federation. "The gravity," Vel said. Her voice trembled slightly. "Those worlds have gravity levels that are wrong, broken, crushing." The hologram changed. Numbers appeared next to each red dot. Tay read them carefully. The lowest number showed gravity at 3 times Earth normal. The highest showed gravity at almost 9 times Earth normal. "At those levels," Vel continued, "bones break, organs fail, blood cannot pump properly. Even our strongest ships cannot land safely. We have lost many explorers to those worlds. Too many. So, we stopped trying." Murmurs of agreement filled the hall. Many delegates had lost friends or family to these planets long ago. The memories still hurt. Tay stayed quiet for a moment. He thought about what he just heard. 3 times Earth gravity. 9 times Earth gravity. These numbers danced in his mind. Something about them felt familiar. "Our scientists studied those worlds for generations," the chancellor said. "We built special probes that could survive the landing. Do you know what we found? Nothing. No life. No resources worth the danger. Just empty rock and crushing pressure. The Federation decided long ago that these worlds have no value. They are simply places where death waits." Tay nodded slowly. He understood why these aliens felt so afraid. Their bodies were built differently than human bodies. Most Federation species came from light gravity worlds. Their bones were thin. Their muscles were soft. Even Earth's normal gravity would be uncomfortable for many of them. But humans were different. "Thank you for showing me this," Tay said. He kept his voice respectful. "May I ask some questions about these worlds?" The chancellor seemed surprised. "Questions? What kind of questions?" "Scientific ones. About the atmosphere, the temperature, the ground composition." Several delegates exchanged confused looks. No one ever asked about the Forbidden Worlds. Everyone knew to stay away from them. That was the rule. That had always been the rule, but the chancellor saw something in Tay's eyes. A spark of something he did not understand. "Very well," the chancellor said. "We will send you our complete research files. But please, Commander, heed our warning. These worlds have killed beings far stronger than humans. Do not let curiosity become tragedy. Tay bowed his head. I understand. Thank you. The meeting ended soon after. Tay walked through the long hallways of the Federation station. His mind was busy with thoughts. He reached his quarters and sat down at his communication desk. Within minutes, he had opened a secure channel to Earth. A face appeared on the screen. It was General Sue, the head of Earth's Space Defense Council. She was an older woman with sharp eyes and gray hair cut short. She had fought in 3 wars before humans ever knew aliens existed. Commander Tay, she said. How was the meeting? Interesting, Tay replied. They gave us the navigation charts. But something else caught my attention. He sent her the data about the forbidden worlds. Look at these gravity readings. General Sue studied the numbers. Her eyes moved back and forth. Then, slowly, a small smile appeared on her face. It was the same smile she wore when she found an advantage on a battlefield. 3 to 9 times Earth gravity, she said. Our special forces train at 2 to 4 times gravity already. Our athletes push even higher for short periods. Exactly, Tay said. These aliens think those numbers mean death. For them, that is true. But for us, they mean opportunity. The two of them sat in silence for a moment. They were both thinking the same thing. The galaxy was full of wonders. But it was also full of dangers. Wars had happened before. Wars would happen again. Earth needed every advantage it could find, and now, they had found 78 planets that no one else in the universe could use. I will need to confirm this with our scientists, General Sue said. We need to study the data carefully. But if these worlds are what they appear to be, then we have just found the greatest training grounds in the galaxy. Tay finished. General Sue nodded. Do not speak of this to anyone. Not yet. Let the Federation think we accepted their warning. Let them believe we are just as scared as they are. And while they believe that, we will be getting stronger. Tay ended the call. He leaned back in his chair and looked at the hologram map still floating on his desk. Those 78 red dots looked different to him now. They were not warnings. They were not symbols of death. They were invitations. The galaxy had shown humanity the places it feared most, and humanity was going to walk right into them. Outside the window, stars drifted past like scattered diamonds. Somewhere out there, worlds of crushing gravity waited in silence. They had been empty for millions of years. But soon, they would hear the sound of human footsteps, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. Captain Hana sat in a small room deep inside Earth's military headquarters. Screens covered every wall. Data streams flowed across them like rivers of light. She had been studying the forbidden worlds for 3 weeks now. Her eyes were tired. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago. But she could not stop reading. The more she learned, the more excited she became. This is unbelievable, she whispered to herself. She pulled up another file. This one showed the surface of a planet called Cora 7. The Federation had marked it with gravity at 4.2 times Earth normal. According to their records, no intelligent species could survive there. The pressure would crush their lungs. Their hearts would fail. Their bones would snap like dry sticks. But Hana was looking at something else. She was looking at the air composition. Oxygen levels were perfect. Temperature was stable. The ground was solid rock. There was fresh water in underground rivers. It is not a death world at all, Hana said out loud. It is just a heavy world. She stood up and walked to the window. Below her, young soldiers ran through training fields. They wore weighted vests and carried heavy packs. Their bodies had grown strong from years of hard work. Hana watched them and smiled. She had grown up in the mountains. Her family had lived at high altitude for generations. The air was thin there. Breathing was harder. But instead of making them weak, it had made them strong. Their lungs grew bigger. Their blood carried more oxygen. What seemed like a disadvantage became an advantage. The same thing could happen with gravity. Hana walked back to her desk and opened a new file. She began writing a proposal. The words came quickly. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. By morning, she had finished a complete plan. She called it Project Iron World. 2 days later, she stood before the Human Defense Council. 20 of Earth's most powerful leaders sat around a long table. General Su was there. So was Commander Tay, who had returned from the Federation station. They all watched Hana with careful eyes. The Federation sees these planets as death traps, Hana began. They are wrong. They are wrong because they are weak. She pulled up the gravity data on the main screen. Red numbers glowed in the dark room. These readings terrify them, and I understand why. Most Federation species evolved on low-gravity worlds. Their bodies are light, efficient, beautiful in their own way. But fragile. She changed the screen to show human athletes. Weightlifters pressing massive bars above their heads. Wrestlers fighting on mats. Soldiers carrying wounded friends across rough ground. Humans are different. We come from a heavy world ourselves. Earth has strong gravity compared to most inhabited planets. We have dense bones, thick muscles, hearts that pump with real power. We already train in conditions that would kill most aliens. General Su leaned forward. How high can we push it? Hana nodded. Our current high-gravity training chambers reach 2.5 times Earth normal. Elite soldiers train there for hours. They come out stronger every time. Athletes have pushed to 3 times normal for short periods. Some medical studies suggest humans could adapt to even higher levels with proper training and time. She changed the screen again. Now it showed the 78 forbidden worlds. These planets range from 3 to 9 times Earth gravity. The lower levels are absolutely survivable. The middle levels would require adaptation. The highest levels would need special equipment and very careful protocols. But none of them are truly deadly for humans. A murmur went through the room. Council members whispered to each other. Some looked excited. Others looked worried. An older man named General Day raised his hand. What exactly are you proposing, Captain? I am proposing that we build training facilities on these worlds, Hana said. Start with the lowest gravity planets. Send volunteers. Let them adapt over weeks and months. Then move them to heavier worlds. Again and again. Push the limits of human strength. For what purpose? Another council member asked. Hana paused. She thought about her answer carefully. The galaxy is not safe, she said. The Federation talks about peace. But they also talk about wars that happened before. Ancient conflicts. Terrible enemies. Some of those enemies are still out there. Sleeping. Waiting. The Federation species cannot fight like we can. They hide behind technology and treaties. But when real danger comes, treaties mean nothing. She looked around the room. If that day comes, humanity needs to be ready. Not just ready. We need to be strong. Stronger than anything the galaxy has ever seen. These worlds can make us that strong. No one else can use them. They belong to us by default. We would be fools not to take them. The room went quiet. Everyone was thinking. Minutes passed. Finally, General Su spoke. The Federation will notice if we start building bases on those planets. Yes, Hana agreed. But they will not understand why. They will think we are insane. They will think we are killing ourselves through foolish pride. Let them think that. By the time they understand the truth, it will be too late to catch up. Commander Tay nodded slowly. The Federation believes these worlds are worthless. They will not care if we claim them. They might even laugh at us. Exactly, Hana said. That is our advantage. They cannot imagine what we are planning because they cannot imagine surviving it. Their minds simply will not accept the idea. General Day stood up. He was the oldest person in the room. He had seen more battles than anyone. I have led soldiers for 50 years, he said. I have seen what hard training can do. Men and women who should have died walked through fire because their bodies and minds were prepared. If these worlds can multiply that effect. He paused. Then we must do this. We have no choice. One by one, the council members voted. The decision was unanimous. Project Ironworld would begin immediately. Hana felt her heart beat faster. This was really happening. Humanity was about to take its first steps onto worlds that terrified the entire galaxy. Over the following months, preparations moved quickly. Engineers designed new ships that could handle heavy landings. Doctors developed training programs for gravity adaptation. Scientists studied everything the Federation knew about the Forbidden Worlds. The first target was a planet called Vex 3. It had gravity at 3.1 times Earth normal. A small team of 50 volunteers was selected. They were the strongest, toughest soldiers Earth had. Many of them had trained together for years. They trusted each other completely. Hana was chosen to lead the mission. When she heard the news, she did not smile or celebrate. She simply nodded and began preparing. There was too much work to do for celebration. On the night before launch, she stood alone on the roof of headquarters. Stars filled the sky above her. Somewhere out there, Vex 3 waited. A world of crushing pressure and endless challenge. She thought about her ancestors. They had climbed mountains when others stayed in valleys. They had sailed oceans when others hugged the shore. They had always pushed forward, always reached for something harder. Now she would do the same. The next morning, she boarded the ship with her team. The engines roared to life. Earth grew smaller in the window behind them. Ahead, the stars waited. And beyond them, a world of iron gravity prepared to test everything humanity could become. 5 years had passed since the first human ship landed on Vex 3. 5 years of sweat. 5 years of pain. 5 years of transformation. Sergeant Wu wiped the dust from his face and looked across the training field. Around him, 200 soldiers moved through their morning exercises. They ran in perfect formation across the rocky ground. Their feet hit the earth with heavy thuds. Their breathing came deep and steady. This was Korra 7, the fourth Deathworld humanity had claimed. Gravity here pressed down at 4.2 times Earth normal. Every step felt like walking through thick water. Every breath required extra effort. Every movement burned energy faster than normal. And yet, these soldiers moved like dancers. Wu had been part of the original 50 volunteers on Vex 3. He remembered those first terrible days. The weight pressing on his chest. The ache in his joints. The way his heart pounded just from standing still. 3 soldiers had quit in the first week. 2 had suffered injuries and been sent home. Everyone else had pushed forward. Now look at them. Wu flexed his hands. The muscles in his forearms rolled like cables under his skin. His bones had grown denser over the years. Medical scans showed they were almost twice as thick as a normal human's. His heart had grown larger and stronger. His lungs could process oxygen with incredible efficiency. But the changes went deeper than that. Something had shifted in his mind too. Fear felt different now. Pain felt different. Things that would have stopped him before barely registered anymore. Lieutenant Yuna jogged over to join him. She was younger than Wu, but had already completed rotations on 3 Deathworlds. Her body looked lean and hard, like a weapon made of living steel. Her eyes were calm and focused. "Morning report," she said. Her voice did not strain at all despite the crushing gravity. All units completed their night exercises. No injuries. Efficiency ratings are up 12% from last month. Wu nodded. "Good. What about the new arrivals?" "Struggling," Yuna admitted. "But that is normal. They will adapt. Everyone adapts eventually." She was right. The human body was an amazing thing. It did not like being uncomfortable. It did not like being challenged. But when it had no choice, it changed. Bones grew stronger to handle more weight. Muscles developed new fibers. Hearts pumped harder. Slowly, painfully, impossibly, the body rebuilt itself. And each generation of trainees adapted faster than the one before. Scientists back on Earth were still trying to understand why. Some thought the body remembered things from previous generations. Others thought humans were simply better at this than anyone had imagined. Whatever the reason, the results spoke for themselves. A group of Federation observers had visited Korra 7 last month. They had watched the training from inside a special viewing chamber that maintained normal gravity. Their faces had shown pure horror. One of them, a thin being with pale blue skin, had actually fainted when a human soldier casually jogged past their window. The soldier had been carrying another soldier on his back at the time. The Federation still did not understand. They thought humans were torturing themselves. They sent concerned messages to Earth, asking if everything was okay. They offered medical assistance. They suggested that humans might be experiencing some kind of mass psychological problem. Earth's leaders replied with polite thanks and continued the program. Wu walked to the edge of the training field. From here, he could see the main base. It was a collection of low, sturdy buildings made from local stone. Nothing fancy, nothing pretty, just solid structures that could handle the constant pressure. Beyond the base, the landscape stretched out in shades of gray and brown. Korra 7 was not a beautiful world. It had no forests or oceans, just endless plains of rock and dust under a pale yellow sky. But Wu had learned to appreciate it. This world was honest. It did not hide its challenges. It simply presented them and let you decide if you were strong enough. Most of the galaxy had decided they were not. Yuna appeared beside him again. "There is news from Earth," she said. "Captain Hana has been promoted to general. She is taking over all Deathworld operations." Wu smiled. Hana had earned it. She had been the first to set foot on Vex 3. She had pushed through the adaptation process alongside her soldiers. She had never asked anyone to do something she would not do herself. "Any word on the new facilities?" Wu asked. 3 more planets are being prepared. That will bring the total to 12 active training worlds. 12 worlds of crushing gravity. 12 places where humans were becoming something new. Wu tried to imagine what the Federation would think when they finally understood. Would they be afraid? Impressed? Angry? Probably all 3. A sound caught his attention. He turned to see a young soldier struggling with a heavy supply crate. The soldier's face was red. His arms shook, but he kept moving, step by painful step, toward the storage building. Wu remembered being that soldier. Everyone did. The first months on a new death world were brutal. Your body screamed at you constantly. Every muscle begged for rest. Sleep never felt long enough. Food never filled you up. You lived in a state of constant exhaustion. But then, something changed. Gradually, your body stopped complaining. The weight that once crushed you began to feel normal. Then, it began to feel light. And one day, you realized you could do things that were simply impossible before. The young soldier reached the storage building and set down the crate. He stood there, gasping for a moment. Then he straightened up and walked back for another load. No complaints. No hesitation. Just work. Yuna watched him too. "He will be fine," she said. "He has the spirit. The spirit is what matters most," Wu agreed. "The body follows eventually." That afternoon, Wu led his unit through combat drills. They practiced hand-to-hand fighting, weapons handling, and tactical formations. Everything was harder under high gravity. Punches hit harder, falls hurt more, tired muscles failed faster. But everything also meant more. The strength gained here was real strength. The skills learned here were real skills. When these soldiers returned to normal gravity, they would move like gods. They would lift weights that seemed impossible. They would run speeds that broke records. They would react faster than the eye could follow. Some of them had already been tested in minor conflicts. Small pirate attacks on human trade ships. Brief encounters with aggressive alien species. The reports were always the same. The Deathworld-trained soldiers performed at levels that shocked everyone. One soldier had been shot 3 times and kept fighting. Another had ripped a metal door off its frame with his bare hands to rescue trapped crewmates. A third had held her breath for almost 5 minutes while swimming through a flooded compartment to reach the engine controls. These were not exaggerations. These were documented facts. And the program was still young. Imagine what would happen after 10 years. 20 years. 50 years. Wu finished the afternoon drills and dismissed his soldiers to rest. He climbed a small hill behind the base, and sat down on a flat rock. The yellow sky was turning orange as the sun set. Shadows stretched across the rocky plain. He thought about Earth. He had not been home in 2 years. Normal gravity felt strange to him now. Uncomfortable almost. He had grown used to the constant weight. The pressure had become part of who he was. Somewhere out there, the galaxy continued on, unaware of what was happening on these forgotten worlds. Alien species went about their lives. They traded. They argued. They celebrated and mourned. They thought they understood the universe, but they did not know about Cora 7. They did not know about Vex 3 or any of the other death worlds. They did not know that humanity was quietly building an army of iron. Wu looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. One day, the galaxy would learn. One day, they would see what humans had become. And on that day, everything would change. He stood up, feeling the familiar weight pressing down on him, and walked back to base. Tomorrow, the training would continue. And the day after that. And the day after that, because that was what humans did. They pushed forward. They grew stronger. They never stopped. The first warning came from the outer rim of Federation space. A small monitoring station sent a garbled transmission. Then, silence. The Federation Council assumed it was equipment failure. They scheduled a repair team for the following month. 2 weeks later, 3 colony worlds went dark. Now the Federation was paying attention. Scout ships were sent to investigate. Only one returned. Its pilot was a young being named Tal. He had 4 arms and golden eyes that should have sparkled with life. Instead, they were hollow with terror. They came from the dark between stars, Tal reported to the Emergency Council session. His voice cracked as he spoke. Millions of them. Maybe billions. They eat everything. Worlds. Ships. People. They consume and multiply and move on. We could not fight them. We could not even slow them down. The recordings from Tal's ship confirmed his words. Black shapes moved across the screens. They looked like twisted insects, each one as large as a transport shuttle. Their bodies seemed to absorb light itself. Their mouths were filled with rows of spinning teeth. The dread swarm had returned. Every species in the Federation knew the stories. Thousands of years ago, the swarm had swept through the galaxy. They had destroyed entire civilizations. They had eaten worlds down to bare rock. Only the great unified effort of 100 species had stopped them. Billions had died. The survivors had thought the threat was ended forever. They were wrong. General Tay stood at the back of the Emergency Council chamber. He was older now. Gray touched his hair. Lines marked his face. But his eyes were still sharp. He watched the Federation leaders argue and panic. He watched them propose treaties and negotiations with a mindless swarm that could not speak. He watched them suggest hiding and hoping the storm would pass. Then he watched them realize, one by one, that none of those options would work. Chancellor Vell rose from her seat. She was ancient now, but her mind remained clear. We must fight, she said. We have no choice. We must gather our forces and meet this threat directly. A wave of despair swept through the chamber. Every delegate knew what that meant. Their soldiers were trained for modern warfare, ship battles, orbital bombardments, precision strikes from safe distances, but the swarm did not fight that way. The swarm landed on worlds and devoured them piece by piece. Fighting them meant ground combat, close combat, the kind of combat that required strong bodies and stronger wills, the kind of combat that Federation species could barely survive under normal conditions. Our soldiers cannot withstand prolonged ground engagement, another delegate said. The physical strain alone would kill them before the swarm reached them. Then we must use automated defenses, robots, drones. The swarm consumes metal as easily as flesh. Our machines would feed them, not stop them. Then what do we do? Surrender? Arguments erupted across the chamber. Accusations flew. Old grudges surfaced. Some delegates began crying. Others simply stared at nothing, lost in despair. Through it all, General Tay remained silent. He was thinking, planning, calculating. Finally, he stepped forward. "May I speak?" The chamber fell quiet. Many delegates looked at him with confusion. Humans were still new to the Federation. They were seen as primitive. Interesting, perhaps, but not important. What could a human possibly offer in this crisis? "Earth has soldiers," Tay said. "Soldiers who were trained for exactly this kind of fight." Chancellor Vell leaned forward. "Explain. For the past 8 years, humanity has been conducting training operations on the Forbidden Worlds, the planets you marked as Deathworlds. Our soldiers live and train under gravity levels that would kill any other species. They have become something more than normal humans." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some delegates looked skeptical, others looked confused. A few looked horrified. "You trained soldiers on Deathworlds?" one delegate asked. "Those worlds are classified as lethal. No being can survive there." "Humans can," Tay said simply. "We have. For years. And the soldiers who completed that training are the strongest warriors in the galaxy. Their bodies can handle physical stress that your species cannot imagine. They can fight longer, harder, and more effectively than any conventional force." The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted questions. Some demanded proof. Some called Tay a liar. Some insisted this was impossible. But Chancellor Vell raised her hand for silence. Her old eyes studied Tay carefully. "You are not lying," she said. "I can see it in your face. But I need to understand. What exactly are you offering?" "Earth will deploy our Deathworld-trained forces to defend Federation space. We will meet the swarm on the ground. We will fight them in ways your soldiers cannot. In return, we ask only that the Federation remember this. Remember that when the darkness came, humanity stood with you." The vote happened quickly. There was no real choice. The Federation needed help. Any help. Even help from strange humans who had done something impossible on Forbidden Worlds. Within days, human ships began moving across Federation space. They carried soldiers unlike any the galaxy had seen. Men and women whose bodies had been forged in crushing gravity, whose bones were dense as stone, whose muscles could tear metal apart, whose hearts pumped with the power of engines. General Hanna commanded the main fleet. She had spent 8 years building this force. 8 years pushing human limits. 8 years preparing for a moment that she hoped would never come. Now it had come, and she was ready. The swarm had already consumed 20 worlds. They were moving deeper into Federation territory every day. Refugees fled in all directions. Military forces retreated again and again. Hope was dying across 1,000 star systems. But on the bridge of her flagship, Hanna studied the tactical displays with calm eyes. She saw the swarm positions. She saw the panic of the defenders. She saw the impossible odds, and she smiled. "All units," she said into her communicator. "This is General Hanna. The moment we trained for has arrived. The galaxy needs our help. They thought our training was madness. They thought we were destroying ourselves. Today, we show them the truth." She paused. Around her, officers worked at their stations. Soldiers checked their weapons. Ships moved into formation. Today, we show them what humans can become when we refuse to accept limits. Today, we meet an enemy that has destroyed civilizations. And today, we teach that enemy what fear truly means. Across the fleet, thousands of voices responded. Their war cry echoed through the communication channels. It was a sound that the Federation had never heard before, a sound full of confidence and strength and hungry anticipation. The dread swarm had awakened after thousands of years. It had expected easy prey. It had expected helpless victims. Instead, it was about to meet humanity. The planet was called Neva Prime. It was a beautiful world of blue oceans and green forests. 300 million Federation citizens lived there. Now, the dread swarm was descending on it, like a black rain. Swarm creatures crashed through the atmosphere in massive waves. They did not use ships. Their bodies were tough enough to survive re-entry. They fell like meteors, burning bright, then hit the ground running. Within minutes, millions of them were spreading across the surface. Federation defense forces tried to stop them. They fired weapons from elevated positions. They set traps and barriers. They fought with everything they had. It was not enough. The aliens were simply too weak. Their bodies tired quickly. Their arms shook from the weight of their weapons. One by one, they fell back. The swarm pressed forward, consuming everything in its path. Cities burned. Screams filled the air. Hope died with each passing hour. Then the sky split open with thunder. Human dropships tore through the clouds. They were ugly, brutal machines built for one purpose. They slammed into the ground hard enough to shake the earth. Doors crashed open, and out poured the soldiers of Project Ironworld. Sergeant Wu was first off his ship. He hit the ground running. Normal gravity felt like nothing to him now. He moved so fast that Federation observers thought their eyes were broken. His rifle cracked again and again. Each shot found its target. Swarm creatures exploded into pieces. Around him, his unit spread out in perfect formation. They had trained for this exact scenario 1,000 times on Korra 7. They knew exactly where to stand, where to shoot, where to move. Their bodies worked like machines. No wasted motion. No wasted energy. Lieutenant Yuna led the second wave. She carried no rifle. Instead, she held 2 heavy blades that most humans could barely lift, but in her hands, forged strong by years of crushing gravity, they moved like feathers. She danced through the swarm, cutting a path of destruction that seemed impossible. A swarm creature lunged at her. It was 3 times her size. Its claws could tear through ship armor. She did not dodge or run. She stepped forward, twisted her body, and drove both blades through the creature's skull. It fell dead before it could touch her. All across the battlefield, similar scenes unfolded. Human soldiers moved among the swarm like gods among insects. They punched through armored shells with their bare fists. They lifted fallen vehicles to create barriers. They carried wounded aliens to safety while fighting off attackers with their free hands. General Hana watched from the command ship in orbit. Her screens showed data streaming in from 100 different locations. Everywhere humans engaged the swarm, the tide turned. Everywhere they fought, the enemy fell back. Pushing forward on the Eastern Front, came Wu's voice over the communicator. The swarm is confused. They have never met resistance like this. Northern sector secure, Yuna reported. Moving to support civilian evacuation. Western defense line holding strong, casualties minimal. For the first time in months, the swarm was losing. Federation observers watched in stunned silence. They had seen humans before. Friendly but unremarkable beings from a small blue world. Average height. Average build. Pleasant enough to talk to. Nothing special. The creatures fighting below were not those humans. One soldier ripped a swarm creature in half with his bare hands. Another kept fighting for 20 minutes after taking wounds that should have killed him instantly. A third threw a boulder the size of a small car into a swarm cluster, crushing dozens of them at once. Chancellor Vell received the reports in real time. Each one seemed more impossible than the last. Her advisors kept checking the data, certain that errors had occurred. But the data was correct. Everything was correct. The humans were winning. The battle for Neva Prime lasted 3 days. The swarm threw everything they had at the human lines. Millions of creatures charged again and again. They tried to overwhelm the defenders through sheer numbers. It had always worked before. Against every species they had encountered, numbers had been enough. But numbers meant nothing against soldiers who did not tire, who did not break, who did not stop. On the final day, General Hana herself descended to the surface. She had been a captain when this journey began. Now she was a general. But she had never stopped training. She had never stopped pushing herself. And she had never asked her soldiers to face anything she would not face herself. She landed in the center of the last major battle. Swarm creatures surrounded her position in every direction. Their clicking and screeching filled the air. They sensed she was important. They wanted her dead. Hana smiled and drew her weapon. What happened next became legend across the galaxy. Hana fought for 6 straight hours without pause. She killed so many swarm creatures that their bodies formed walls around her. When her weapon ran empty, she fought with her hands. When her hands grew tired, she used fallen swarm claws as improvised weapons. She did not fall. She did not slow down. She stood like a mountain in the middle of a storm. And finally, the swarm broke. For the first time in recorded history, swarm creatures retreated from a battle they had started. They fled back toward space, toward the safety of the void between stars. They had found something they did not understand. Something that frightened them. Something that fought back in ways they could not process. They had found humanity. In the weeks that followed, the pattern repeated across Federation space. Wherever the swarm attacked, human forces responded. Wherever human forces fought, the swarm was driven back. Slowly, painfully, the invasion was pushed out of Federation territory. Chancellor Vell addressed the full Federation Council on the day the last swarm ship fled into deep space. "We were dying," she said. Her voice was heavy with emotion. "We had accepted our fate. We had prepared our final messages to the universe. And then, humanity came." She looked at General Tay, who stood in the same spot where he had first proposed sending troops. He looked older now, more tired, but also proud. "You asked us to remember." Vell continued. "Remember that when darkness came, humanity stood with us. I promise you this. We will never forget. The Federation will never forget." Quote. Later, in a quiet room far from the celebrations, Wu, Yuna, and Hana sat together. They did not speak for a long time. They were soldiers. They had done their duty. Words seemed unnecessary. Finally, Hana broke the silence. "The Federation has officially removed the Deathworld classification from our training planets." Wu raised an eyebrow. "What will they call them now?" "Human worlds." Hana smiled slightly. They said no other name seemed appropriate. Yuna looked out the window at the stars. "Do you think they truly understand now? What we went through? What we became?" Hana considered the question. "No," she said finally. "They do not understand. They cannot understand. They see the results, but they cannot feel what it means to be forged in crushing gravity, to build yourself from pain and pressure. That experience belongs only to us." She stood up and walked to the window. "But they do not need to understand. They only need to know that when they needed help, we came. When their worlds burned, we fought. When they had lost all hope, we gave them something to believe in." Outside, the stars continued their eternal dance. Somewhere out there, the swarm was licking its wounds and wondering what had happened. Somewhere out there, 100 species were looking at humanity with new eyes. And somewhere out there, on 78 heavy worlds, the next generation of human soldiers was waking up to begin another day of training. The galaxy had labeled those planets as places of death. Humanity had turned them into forges of strength. What the universe called impossible, humans called Tuesday. The war was over. But the training would continue. Because humans never stopped pushing forward. Never stopped getting stronger. Never stopped proving that limits existed only for those who accepted them. And humanity accepted nothing.